faith has enabled me to take risk. You need to invest money into, going to conferences. Financial pressure can be really terrible.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Guild Podcast. We are here because we want to inspire and empower entrepreneurs to integrate their faith in their business. And our vision is to see nations transformed by business and entrepreneurs that are doing this with intentionality and biblical principles. Today, I'm here with my friend Cris Zimmermann. He's coming from Germany. He's an entrepreneur, very visionary entrepreneur with more than 20 initiatives in business in 5 different countries, and with a passion for business, for creation, for transformation, with a passion for people, for the Lord, and also with a desire to bring transformation in the countries where you're present. I know that together with your brother, you're also involved in community and ministry, and also I know that you're a family man, that you are living in Mallorca right now together with your family and the 3 children, and I know that you're passionate about bringing transformation and helping different nations. So we are so grateful to have you here, Cris. Welcome to Romania.
Well, thank you so much. And I have to say, the last 48 hours have just been absolutely terrific for me, Ruben, to get to know you on a whole nother level, spend the time with you, but also the culture here of other entrepreneurs and business owners and how they're wrestling through questions and asking good questions and really wanting to create good businesses. I love that.
Well, Cris, I am very curious if you can share a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur and investor, and also maybe how faith helped you in this journey.
So I was born into a family of business. My father was always in business, and so I traveled the world with him. And actually, it's one of the things that I do now with my 3 boys. I've got 3 teenagers. Carlos, Alfonso, and Cedric. They are 18, 16, and 14 years old at the moment. And whenever I can, I try to take them with me to business meetings around the world. So last week I was in Italy, and I took my middle son, Alfonso, with me, and he was part of my meetings, conversations. And this is actually how I grew up. My father took me to a factory in Thailand that he owned. He took me on business trips to Italy, to Bosnia. My father worked just after the war in Bosnia, and I had some informal education as an entrepreneur, as a business guy, out of family experience. And I would say that probably that planted a seed. I never thought of myself as being self-employed, as being employed by someone else. I had a job as a teenager, working in a department store, but after that, I've never had a boss in my life. And so I would say a lot of it really came out of our family. Then when I started studying law at Frankfurt University, so I'm a lawyer by profession, by background, it was really my uncle from South Africa. So we have a little bit of a South African background. My grandparents were missionaries in Africa. My mom was born in South Africa. And my uncle, actually her younger brother, he was a full-blown entrepreneur down in South Africa in construction, real estate, business. And he called me up basically when I was just starting with law studies, and he wanted to invest some of his money in Germany in real estate. And I raised my hand and said, Uncle, I'm your guy. Let's do it together. I'm the lawyer on the team here. Let's do this together. So I would say that I was really, the climate really for me has always been entrepreneurship, business. Also the ups and downs. So I know of a number of businesses within our family that failed. And we went through some really difficult times. Also, I experienced things that went south, and that's financial pressure can be really terrible. You can feel it. This existential crisis when you really have to put everything on the line. And in a sense, if you want to be successful in business, you need to take risk. You need to step out. And so that's where perhaps faith comes in, because you ask, and we can talk more about that. But in a sense, I would say faith has enabled me to take risk, because I've got my identity in Christ. I've got faith that God will provide, and He actually is the one that enables me to step out in faith. So walking by faith, we often talk in church about that, walking by faith. Well, as a business person, I would say we even more need to walk in faith.
But Cris, when did you understand you have a calling for entrepreneurship? There are many people that are thinking about business. do you think you need to have a special calling or a special set of abilities, or you can become an entrepreneur?
So I don't know whether I would talk about a calling there. I really felt like, this is my natural gifting. And I actually believe that God wants to use our natural gifts and the things that we enjoy. So I would say I enjoy creating companies. I enjoy creating businesses and ventures. I love to start new projects. And so, I always felt like when I pray to God that He actually wants me to do the things that I also enjoy. He's not against my passion. And yesterday I had a great conversation with one of the business guys about ambition. I actually believe God created me very ambitious. Mm-hmm. I love to succeed. I love to win. I love to compete in a sense. And I don't think this is something negative. Now, there is a spiritual aspect where you really need to check your motives. Why do you want to do that? Mm-hmm. But I've really come to discover that actually I think God has created me with this drive, with this inner passion, and it's good for me to live that out.
You told us that you had opportunity to live in a family of business. How important was for you to grow, to see the grandparents, maybe the parents, the uncles doing business, and what would be the role of a mentor here? Because in Romania, for example, we have this challenge, and I'm very curious to see how much this helped you to develop and to grow as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I would say everything. That this makes all the difference in the world if you have role models, if you've got people who mentor you. In fact, that's why I invest myself into communities. I have an organization, a company where I train entrepreneurs and business owners. We form communities. It's a learning community. I have created some masterminds. I've created some inner circles. I've created some programs where I really coach and train entrepreneurs as a mentor. And because I believe without that you will not survive. Mm-hmm. Yes, I came out of a family where a lot of the training was informal, so not through university education. As I say, I studied law. So a lawyer is not an entrepreneur. A lawyer reads texts and writes papers. A lawyer is not a typical entrepreneur. So I've never had a training officially as an entrepreneur. It really came unofficially. And so unofficially, how do you learn it? Well, only by looking, by seeing, by sitting around the table, by being in the meetings. And so that came informally, and by people investing in me. So I'm a product of other people. Mm-hmm. I'm a product of other business owners who've invested in me, and that's why I'm tremendously passionate. I want to invest myself now in other entrepreneurs and business owners.
And what would be your advice or encouragement for a person, young professional that is looking for entrepreneurship but maybe does not have entrepreneurs in the family?
Yes, lots of. I'm talking almost every day with business guys who do not have this this climate and this. You need to look for that, and you need to invest money into going to conferences, signing up for mentorship or leadership programs, flying across the globe in order to find people. I've actually found some of my mentors and some of the people that have influenced me. They live on the other side of the world. Wow. And I would say I've spent hundreds of thousands of years in order to really receive education, training, development. Otherwise, I would have not been able to do what I've done. So I encourage everyone, before you invest some of your money into stocks and I don't know, for your pension, invest it in yourself. I really believe you need to put money in yourself to get education.
Wow, that is really amazing. So building a business, it's not really easy. What was a little bit of the challenges that you faced after you started?
Oh, how many hours do we have for this for this podcast? I mean, creating in companies is an uphill battle all the way. It's difficult, to create products, to create services. It's difficult to find clients. Where does your sales and marketing come from? Then you start employing people. You have to manage people. You have to manage your finances, cash flow. You have to talk with banks. I mean, everything is a struggle in business, so to speak. And so I often tell business guys, if you don't enjoy this struggle, don't be a business guy. Become a teacher, do something else with your life, because you need to find joy in actually doing this. And so I would say that I always try, and even yesterday, after a full day, I put in my notepad, Cris, enjoy this, I need to tell this, sometimes myself, that I need to enjoy the journey. We have a little bit of a destination disease as business guys. We want to go for the results. We want to go, for the big exit, or, however we, and so I really am very conscious every day. I want to enjoy the journey. So I'm enjoying my life. I'm enjoying every day, but I have to tell that to myself because it's a struggle. It's a fight. It's war in a sense. And we live in a world at the moment where there's lots of wars going on, and it's terrible. Lots of battles. I actually feel in many ways business is this uphill battle. No success has ever come easy to me. So I've got lots of war stories if you want to hear them.
When was a moment in your life when you felt that you want to change the motive why you're doing business? Because at the beginning, we have some motives. We need some money to exist. We need some money to pay for but in time you grow and you've built some very successful businesses over time. What was the mindset that you need to do, or what was some critical points?
I had a number of those, but probably early in my 20s. So I started off as a law student, as I said. I started a company, a catering business. Actually, I rented a kitchen downtown Frankfurt. I started employing people. I opened up some shops at Frankfurt Airport, and more or less by the time I was finished with my law studies, I had like 60 people employed, lots of activity, 10 cars, and no money in my bank account. And but still, I was in business, and I was, there was money coming in, and there was lots of things to manage. At the same time, I started buying real estate. So because of the connection with my uncle, I already, my first investment was already 25 apartments downtown Frankfurt, which we turned we renovated them, and we did an Airbnb kind of thing. We furnished them, and so within a few years, I could really see that I'm gifted to create, I'm gifted to build. And then I hit a crisis. And the crisis was not so much external. It was not the business was going wrong, or there was a financial struggle. My crisis was really an inner tension that kind of arose in my own life. And the question was purpose. What do I want to build, and how do I reconcile that with my Christian faith? So I was not really brought up in a Christian family. My grandparents later on became missionaries, but my parents, we didn't go to church. But I became a Christian as a teenager, through various circumstances and outreach. A Boy Scout in my home city, and so I became a Christian. So for me, becoming a Christian was incredible. It was life-giving. It was wonderful. So I was very active, very involved as a business guy in church. But there came this point where I felt like on Sundays we pray the Lord's Prayer for His kingdom to come on earth as it is in heaven, which is the famous prayer that Jesus taught His disciples. Pray for His kingdom, for God's kingdom to be present. And at the same time, I felt like as a business guy, I'm building my own kingdom. Because that's literally what we do as business guys. We create our own environment. We create our own ecosystem. We own our employees, our money, our projects, our systems, our services. And so we create our own little kingdom. And I felt like there's a tension between my kingdom and God's kingdom. And this is not something we often talk about in business, but really we are, in a sense, we are kings within our own kingdom as entrepreneurs. And so I felt this tension, whose kingdom am I building? And so it's one of the questions I like to ask business guys. Ruben, which kingdom are you building? What's your ultimate agenda? And so I went through a very, soul-searching process. I read a whole bunch of books. I went through some conferences and seminars. And then I came to this critical point where I said, God, I'm willing to even close all my businesses, sell everything, and become a pastor, if that's what you want me to do. And to make a long story short, yes, it opened up some ministry, even some theological studies that later on I did, and but I really surrendered. I would say all my, everything that I do is ultimately not just for myself. It is for the kingdom of God. And
then, Cris, I'm curious, how did your business and initiative changed after you had this understanding?
Yes. So one business, the catering business, I just sold that because I also felt like it's consuming too much of my time. I want to do some other projects. I want to do some ministry stuff that I need more time in my calendar. I often tell business guys, if you want to tell me about your priorities, you don't need to tell me, just show me your calendar, because our calendar basically reflects our priorities. And sometimes we've got this disconnect. We kind of come up and, this is my priority, 1, 2, 3. And then you look at the calendar and you don't find it in the calendar. So, oftentimes I talk with business guys about family and, how important it is to take care of your marriage and your kids and take care of your family. And then, I tell them, show me your calendar. And then, I don't find family in the calendar because you work 100 hours a week and, you're traveling on the weekends and you don't. And then I'm like, you cannot tell me this is a priority for you. If it's not in your calendar, it's not a priority. So, back then, I had to sell one business because I felt like this is over-consuming me, and it's eating me up. It's not giving me space to create other things and also be involved in ministry. So I literally just sold it. I got a partner that was part of the business, and I just sold him my 50% of the company.
Wow, it's a major decision there. For entrepreneurs, their business is the main thing, and at least in Romania and Eastern Europe, what I see, it's we are very involved in business from Monday to Saturday, and then Sunday we go to church. How can we integrate things? How can you think that for a Christian entrepreneur can integrate things, his faith with his business, with his ministry, that he or she has a holistic development?
Well, for me, it's a hard question. So I literally had to go through a crisis that I would say was almost as dramatic as me becoming a Christian. So I actually talk about almost like my second conversion. My first conversion really being saying, I accept Christ, as my Savior. Thank you, Jesus, for dying for my sins. I want you to be in my life. Well, my second crisis really was, okay, now I am a follower of Jesus, but do I really live this out 24/7? Every day, not just Sundays.
Yes.
So I had to go through another crisis, and so my big challenge is for business guys: don't lead this dualistic life. If you're chopping up your time between this is spiritual, this is non-spiritual, this is business, this is church, there's something wrong. God is interested in all of your life, every aspect. Every day, every minute, every hour counts, and everything is spiritual. Every moment is spiritual.
Even doing business, making money.
Everything is spiritual. While in fact, money for me is the most spiritual thing. If you look at the scriptures, what Jesus taught about, most of his teaching had money involved. Some principles around money. There's so much, that he talks about money. Why? Because money is a spiritual thing. How you invest money. I just talked about the calendar. If you tell me about your priorities, I say I want to see them in the calendar. Well, same with your money. Where do you put your money? This is a very spiritual exercise. Do you put money just for yourself, for example, or do you put money also for others? It shows about your love, what you value. Where we put money is what we value. And so, do you donate? How much do you donate? Can you be generous? Can you be beyond generous? How do you invest? Do you invest just in some stock companies to get some more interest? Or do you perhaps do impact investing, where you really want to see how something changes in the world because of your money? So for me, the question, how I invest my money, is a very spiritual question.
Wow, this is amazing. And, in business, we are faced with some challenges because we are dealing with money, we are dealing with power, with influence. After maybe we become successful, we get a lot of attention. How can we remain faithful in this world where it's all about money, attention, influence, power? What are your methods to protect yourself and to remain faithful?
Well, as I said, I'm part of the Jewish Christian tradition, and I think we have what we call spiritual disciplines. And for me, spiritual disciplines are disciplines that we need to have as part of our life to really keep things in checks and order. So, for example, for me, Sundays is a non-negotiable. I meet all kinds of business guys. Sometimes they go to church, sometimes I don't go to church. For me, I've made the decision. Sundays I go to church. It's in my calendar. I don't get up on Sunday morning and say, do I go to church or do I not? It's so that's, we are part intentionally of a faith community, and we're committed. We go there. That's one thing. The other one, prayer. I commit to pray. One of the beautiful traditions. So I'm Protestant, but one of the things that I really admire about our Catholic brothers and sisters is that in doing their worship service, there's actually the time where they actually kneel. In their church pews and in their bench, they actually kneel down to say a prayer. So I've always felt like kneeling down for prayer is a wonderful way to express, you're bowing before a higher authority. So as part of my spiritual disciplines, I literally, by myself, in my office, in my bedroom, I very often pray on my knees. And for me, it's showing physically with my body that I want to bow down before God. I'm not the king of the universe. I'm not the center of the universe. Christ is, and so I pray on my knees. It's a spiritual discipline for me. And reading scripture, being listening. We're listening to so many news, so many influencers, so many emails, so many other words. But are you really listening to the words of God given to us in scripture? So that's really important to me.
But Cris, this is very not intuitive, because as my business grows, an entrepreneur, I get more power. I feel I'm more control, and I think I can do more. So how do you keep your passion for?
Well, first of all, kind of on the accountability side, how do you stay, also humble? Mm-hmm. Like, the big problem that we have in business is we're not humble people. We get proud. Money can make us proud. Influence, power can make us proud. So you need to come up with a system that of keeping you in checks and balances. Mm-hmm. Now, I have some people in my life that are really important to me to help me on this. One of them is my wife. Mm-hmm. Okay, my wife keeps me centered like no one else. Another one is actually my brother Philip. He's a wonderful business guy. He's also studied some theology, but he's got his doctorate in organizational strategic leadership. We've got some businesses together. We've also done ministry together. I always know I can't fool my brother. Okay, he sees right through me. He knows my weaknesses. He knows my blind spots. So I can sell anything to anyone, but not to my brother. He knows. He can look at me. So it's really important for me to have him by my side, because he's also, I would say, an accountability system. So I always encourage business guys, if you are lonely at the top all by yourself, this is dangerous. It's very dangerous. Yes, you may be at the top, but you need some wise people, some mentors, some good family members, your spouse. You need them, that they can be very open, honest, transparent with you, ask you hard questions, challenge you. I think that's really important.
But Cris, how can we find balance here regarding life? Because, business always need help and our attention, and we as entrepreneurs, we become passionate and we want to get involved, and it's part of our calling, and we want to do more. How do you keep balance? Because, as you say, family is important, but also business is important. So how
it's really important. Yeah. So last year I wrote a book. It's called "Get Your House in Order."
Yes, we have it here.
Yeah, it's actually a study of the life of Cosimo de' Medici. Mm-hmm. So Cosimo was this. In the 15th century, he was a banker who created this incredible empire, the Medici Bank, all over Europe. All the bankers always know, because they coined a bunch of principles that we still use. Double entry bookkeeping comes from the Medici family. The letter of credit comes from them, is attributed to them. So an incredible business guy. But as I started studying him a few years ago, I really felt like, oh wow, he's an incredible business guy. So there's some principles I can learn from him. But he's got his house in order, but not just his business house, but also his personal life, the kind of the influence that he manages, as well as his relationships. So I wrote a book with some principles, and and I'm happy for people to read it. And really, it is not just your business. You cannot just have your business set up successfully. I really believe you also need to manage your relationships, and there are things you can do in order to be successful in these other areas.
Cris, I would like to talk more about the book because
we can.
I read it and it is amazing. How did you discover the story of Cosimo?
Well, on a family vacation. Yeah, I love Italy. I learned Italian. I started studying some art history just as a side hobby. Actually, it's a spiritual discipline of mine to look at art because I'm not an arts guy. Normally, I've never been in this sector, but to actually look at art is a way of me kind of slowing down, and I have to focus and I think and contemplate. So anyhow, a few years ago we went on a family vacation. Italy, Tuscany, Florence is the most beautiful city. It's this Renaissance city. There was a building period of 150 years where this whole city was constructed 500 years ago. And if you study the city, really, every palazzo, every church, the cathedral, everything kind of goes back to the Medici family. They are Italy's most famous, most prominent family. For 300 years, they ruled and reigned in Tuscany, and they intermarried with the House of Spain, they intermarried with the House of France. So an incredible business family. But here's the thing, they were not just business guys. They also branched out into politics, into art. They sponsored Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Donatello, all these great Renaissance artists. They went into architecture. They groundbreaking work in architecture. Filippo Brunelleschi, they hired, to come up with new designs. And then religion. They even worked themselves into religion. So when I started studying, so I love history, I love to learn, I love to study. I'm always reading books. For over 20 years, I've had the goal to read a minimum of 52 books a year, so one book per week. So I'm always reading. And so I was on a family vacation, and I was reading a book on the life of the Medici family, and I felt like, wow, I can learn something here. So, that's perhaps another principle for entrepreneurs. Always be learning. Always be learning. Somehow there's this myth, that we learn in school, and perhaps we learn in university, and then we're finished. Well, that's wrong. We need to endlessly learn and grow ourselves and develop. And how do we do that? By books, seminars, conferences, teachings, mentors. So I'm obsessed with that, and that's why I discovered some ancient wisdom in a good business family.
So, Cris, if we would like to help a young entrepreneur to be inspired from the Medici family and Cosimo, what would be some key things that you have learned that would help a young entrepreneur when he's starting his business from the Medici?
Yeah,
principles?
So very much on purpose. It's not just a book, that I wrote. Just how do you make your business successful? I am very much of the opinion that you need to create a successful business. In fact, I help guys. What do you need to do in order to create a successful business? There are some principles, some things you can learn in order to be successful. I believe that. It's just like the laws in scripture. They're the laws of nature. There's some things, really principles we can learn and study, and if we follow them, they will actually make us successful. And if you neglect them, you'll pay for the consequences. So there are some principles for business, but it's really also some principles for life that I've kind of drawn on. Actually, even in the first chapter. The first chapter has a house rule, so it kind of goes through the different houses of Cosimo, and I actually take business guys with me to Florence, and we kind of experience that live. It's a really cool thing. But one of the things is he had, as a business guy, he had a countryside home called Villa di Careggi, and he went to this villa in order to work on himself. There's actually a quote that I found in one of his letters: "I'm going to my countryside home not in order to work on my business, but to work on myself." And he had a physical location. And sometimes I ask business guys, where do you go if you want to work on yourself? Not on your business, not on your marriage, not anything. It's just on yourself. And so he had a physical location, and he would go there and he would water his own garden. He would. There was a beautiful garden that he orchestrated, and then in the morning he would go out and put the flowers and it's kind of for me a picture of we need to take care of our soul and our garden and our spirit. We need to do that. Books. He built a library. He grew up in a house with 3 books in his house. So his parents owned 3 books. This was before the printing press. This was after the Middle Ages. There were no books around. Well, he became obsessed by hunting for books.
Wow.
When he died, there was a huge library of thousands of books that he had collected from all over the world. So he was crazy as a business guy in learning and developing. He hired at one point 46 different people to with their hands transcribe other manuscripts. So he put them on his payroll actually to copy books. So he wanted to produce a library, and there's a great Laurentian library in Florence if you visit that goes back to Cosimo. As a business guy, he was always surrounded by books, so he invested in himself.
Wow, that's really amazing. But how do you think that we can use our business experience to go from only building a business to having an influence, and maybe to think about how can we transform society?
Yes.
Because what they did, it was not only making money, as you
Yes.
say, it was much more. They influenced culture, they influenced art, they were influenced politics.
Yes.
How do you think a business or entrepreneur can move from only building his own business
Wonderful
to
question.
having an impact?
Well, for me, it starts with vision. How big is your vision? If you, as a business guy, only have a vision for your company, I would say you've got a small vision, my friend. I know you.
That's also hard.
No, I know you want to grow your company, you want to do that, but as I said, it goes back to the kingdom of God, and that actually God has a vision for this world. He wants to transform the world and the world it ought to be. God loves all of this world, not just the business. One of the things I like to challenge business guys on is you are located in a specific city.
Yes.
How do you walk through your city? What's your vision for the city? How are you actively as a business guy developing your city? Where are you helping? What kind of projects are you supporting on the philanthropic side, but perhaps also on the business side? So you live here in Cluj. So it was wonderful the last 48 hours to kind of see of different things that are happening. We met with some of the artists here in town, and I felt like, yes, this is great. Where you're not just blindly boringly just doing business. Actually, business guys are oftentimes very boring. If you're just talking to me about your business all day long, I'm like, you're a very boring person, because it's always just business. No, it's actually we can develop a larger vision. So, for example, for our city, but perhaps for our country. When we've been talking, Ruben, I felt like you really have a passion for your country. You want to develop this country of Romania. You've got a history, a past of communism, and then there was a break, then there was a new start. And so you, as a business guy, you really have the vision to develop this country and beyond. Europe, you want to influence. And so for me, this is beautiful. And I think this is actually how it should be. We should not be so narrow-minded as business guys.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And Cris, from this perspective of business, how do you see what are the trends? What have you seen in the last years, because you're involved globally? What are you see the trends here for Christian entrepreneurs? What do you see happening worldwide?
Well, as you're saying, I work worldwide. So the magic community that I'm building at the moment is business guys from all over the world, and so I listen to and I look, and I'm an investor, so I look at I look at companies, probably 10 to 15 different business proposals per week, kind of get into my inbox, and I have a look, and I chat with some business guys, because we're as a family, we're looking at how to invest, and what are the things that are happening. So I see a lot of different things now from all kinds of spectrum. Now I've got a very large background in real estate investing, because that's how I got started. Most of our assets have always been in the real estate, but a few years ago we decided to also branch out and look at some other things. And so again, for me, I don't know whether I could say trends. I mean, obviously we've got some technological trends at the moment. Everyone's talking about AI. There are all kinds of interesting ventures that are developing there. Again, for me, it's also I'm still looking at finding out where do where do we as a family kind of want to break new ground. I just know that there are some incredible markets, up and rising markets, some different climates. So one of the things I also like to encourage business guys to do is really get outside your own market. Start traveling, start visiting other climates. There's some, a few, actually, that's how we met, Ruben. Mm-hmm. We both went and spoke at a conference in Warsaw in Poland.
Yes.
It was my first time that I was kind of on business in Poland. And then I met some of these entrepreneurs and I felt like, wow, these guys are, they're kicking and screaming. They're creating all these companies. It's a great climate. And I did not expect that. So, yes, I'm always looking, but there are lots of different trends. It would be hard to pin it down.
I'm very curious regarding, and we will come back to some investment principles, but I'm very curious. We met there in Poland. What was the trigger? How did you become curious to come and visit Romania? Because I think you know Romania from visiting, but not like business trip or
well, it was you, Ruben. We had dinner together, and when I heard part of your story, you spoke at the conference. I felt like, wow, I feel like I've got a brother in crime here, or in faith, as we say in Christian circles, not in crime. And I felt like, well, I want to learn. I want to learn what you're up to. I want to come and I want to see. And as I say, my big purpose now, I invest. Yes, I invest into companies. I invest into buildings. But really, I'm interested in investing into people. So I want to, I'm looking, where can I invest into people? And that's why I'm creating, communities. That's why I'm creating programs on how to do that strategically.
And can you share a little bit with us what was your impressions, or what did you think about Romania before, and what was the discovery now, or what?
Yeah, so
what you feel?
I through some of the ministry stuff that I supported and helped create in Germany, we've sent some mission teams and some help trips over to Romania in order to support, and so for me Romania was always a little bit more on the receiving end. Let's put it this way. I'm from Germany, Frankfurt, Germany, rich country, lots of resources, not a lot of donations because Germans are not very generous, but that's another story. But I felt like Romania, that's where we kind of go and support. And for me, the last 48 hours have really been inspiring because I see, I see people creating business. I see, ministries, developing. I see Christians being active and involved. So this was very positive for me. So I actually find this is a great climate here of something birthing. And it's a wonderful thing that God is doing through Guild. I'm a big fan already of Guild. I did not know it before, and now I've sat with some of the leaders. I feel like, wow, this is capacity leaders. This is high level discussions. You're wrestling with each other. There's good discussion. There's different personalities. It's not just built around you or around some other. It's a whole community, an ecosystem developing. So I'm very proud of what's happening here.
Yes, we are also very grateful, and we are happy when friends come from outside, because maybe they can see different things. We being here inside the nation, sometimes we don't see everything that's going on, but we are glad that you're here. So, Cris, can you share some principles of investing when you look for an entrepreneur?
Yes.
What are you looking at? So also maybe exactly some industry that you're looking, but also some principles that you are looking for investment.
Yeah, I'd love to share that. So basically two things. I always say 50% of my decision is based on the person, the entrepreneur, who is behind it. Yeah,
not the business.
No. First of all, the person. I want to know who's behind this, because at the end of the day, for me, every business is a people business. Okay, my background is not in technology. I know there are all kinds of technology companies, and it's not as much about people. But I actually have some good friends, tech guys, and at the end of the day, I would also still, because it's them who are creating the technology. But so 50% of my decision is really based on the person, the founder, the entrepreneur, his character, his background, his experience, his passion, his drive. Do I believe in that or do I not? Okay, so that's why I like to spend time with other business, and not just in official meetings. I've been part of where people come pitch and have 20 minutes. That's for me boring, not interesting. I want to see the person. I want to see who they are and where they come from. Okay, so 50% is person. The other 50% is the business model and the business plan. Do I think they have a good idea? But it's, not just an idea. Do they have a good business model, business plan that they've worked out? Where I think yes, that is something for the market. That is something that is something that makes sense to me. I have to be honest. I look at a lot of business proposals, and after 2 minutes, I can say I don't think this is good. I think this is bad. I think this is not going to work. It's not a match. It's got some lofty ideas in there. Some great slides. They always do. I don't. Me as an investor, I don't need nice slides. I need something where I feel like, yeah, this is good. So it's these two things. Then let me just say, if I venture outside my expertise, so as I mentioned, one of my strongest expertise is basically in real estate investment. We've bought apartment complexes, commercial spaces, hotels. So I've done a lot of investments in my field. I'm the expert. So if you wanted to invest with me, I would say Ruben is fine, but I'm the expert. Okay, you can put some money, but please don't give me advice. I know my game. You can co-invest with me. Now, if I am now on the investor side in a field, in a company that is not my expertise, I don't want to be the lead investor. I want to follow someone who knows what he's doing. Not just the entrepreneur, but also perhaps some other investors who actually know the field, they know the product, they know the market on a whole nother level. So for example, technology. I've never studied technology. I mean, I use technology. I have an iPhone and stuff, but I'm not a techie guy. So if I was going to invest into a technology company, I want to know who else is investing and where can I follow that lead. Okay. Same thing about other countries. People have made terrible mistakes by investing into companies in other countries. Why? Because they don't understand the market. They don't understand the culture. They don't understand the people. They don't understand the background. So how do you invest into other countries? Well, you don't do it yourself alone. You don't become the lead investor. You follow some local investors who actually believe in the market.
Wow, that's amazing principles. Thank you for sharing with us. When you look, because you work with entrepreneurs and you mentor and you help them, what have you seen that maybe are some limited mindsets or some challenges they face that block them to the growth of them personally and the business?
Oh, mindset is a huge thing for me. So I have to work on my own. So before I talk about others, let me talk about my own mindset. I need to constantly work on my mindset. So attitude, positivity, hopefulness, creativity. This does not all just come naturally. I've now had years of cultivating this mind, but I have to keep my mind in check. And sometimes, I have bad days. I have bad days where I feel like, oh man, I don't want to do this. I want to put my head in the ground, and I don't want anyone. I just want to go to the beach. I live on the island of Mallorca, and I just want to go to the beach, and please not. And so I have to actively manage my own thinking. And the nice thing, and this is even in the scriptures, we're not victims to our own thoughts. We're not victims. Our thoughts don't just come, they don't just drop out of heaven. We can work on our mind, just how we can work on our hearts, a spiritual process. We can also work and train our minds. So I'm very, very aware that I need to, do that. And so mindsets for other entrepreneurs, yes, you need to. So my question would be, Ruben, what makes you hopeful? How can you stay positive? Because if you're not positive, the people in your company are not going to be positive. If you're not hopeful, if you're not full of energy, full of passion, your employees are not going to be full of passion and energy. Also, your clients. How do you want to attract clients if you don't feel like you've got a great product? Like, in a sense, I always say, as a business owner, you're always in sales. Okay, some of us have sales departments. It's great, but you're always in sales because you're marketing your product, your service. You're putting it out there. You're the chief salesperson. So how do you sell? Well, not with a depressed mindset, not with a bad mentality. You need to be hopeful. Well, and that does not come naturally. So you need to work on that.
Wow, Cris, could you share with us what do you do when you don't work? When you're off the plug.
So when we moved 3 years ago, we moved as a family to the island of Mallorca. out of a family crisis, COVID, everything was bad. My wife had health issues. So we kind of overnight left the country of Germany and moved to Mallorca and put my boys in British schools there. And the first thing that I bought, and I would say the best 5,000 euros I've ever invested in my life, is into a Vespa.
Wow.
An Italian Vespa. I bought a Vespa 125, and I just enjoyed this little vehicle, this little motorbike, more than anything else. So for me, I don't even, on the island of Mallorca, I don't own a car. My wife has a nice car, but I don't have a car. I just have a Vespa. And I go, in shorts and t-shirts, on my day off, or, when I loved it. In fact, in the mornings, I love to, before I start with calls and other stuff, I really, jump on my Vespa and go to the local coffee shop and get some croissants and do some take some notes and stuff and prepare for the day. But I love to just drive around with my Vespa. I love to go to the beach. Fortunately enough to live on an island, so I do lots of sports. It's another thing that's really important for me as a business guy. I've got the routine. I go to the gym every day. Every day. Yeah. Well, 1 day a week is off, but 6 days when I'm on the island of Mallorca, when I'm home. When I travel, it can throw you off. But when I'm in my normal routine, I go to the gym every day. There's no exception, and it's a discipline. Again, it's not. Yes, I enjoy some of the exercise. But actually, it's a discipline. So for many years, I went mornings. Every morning, I would go before the work starts. Now I've changed the routine. It's in the evenings because my sons like to go and exercise in the evenings, and I thought it's also a good time to connect with my boys. They love to do weightlifting, bodybuilding, that kind of stuff. So I go in the evening, and and my rule is just to show up. I don't have a total plan. I mean, I've got a little bit of things that I walk through, but I really just go and show up. And if I don't feel like doing it for 2 hours, I'm not going to do it for 2 hours. And then I go to the sauna every day. There's an ice bath and a sauna, and do that every evening. And I've just seen that it improves my sleep. I sleep a whole lot better after exercise, and after a sauna and ice bath, I sleep like a baby.
Wow, so you also take care of your body, not only your mind.
Well, for me, actually, to cope with stress, I mean, that's why I like to talk about it. How do you, so all of our questions, for us all, the question is, what do we do with stress? Okay, well, in a sense, if you're in business, if you're really kicking and screaming and building companies and stuff, there's stress. There's, it's a fight, it's a war, like I said. And so you need to find healthy ways, how to cope with stress. So I would say 50% of why I do physical exercise is not just for my body, it's actually for my mind.
Wow.
There's some chemical processes, which I can't lecture about, but there's some stuff with endorphins that happen even to release stress if you sweat at least one time a day. And so if you do some exercise. So for me, it's actually a survival mechanism. It's not just because I love sports. It's actually for me to be at the top of my peak performance. I need to do some exercise, and it's a discipline. I just have to put it in my calendar.
Wow. Cris, I would love to speak a little bit about success and legacy.
Yes.
I'm curious how you define your success,
and
what legacy would you like to leave behind?
Yeah, so actually, coming back to the Medici family, and so I've become a little bit of an expert on the Medici family, and I'm putting together, books and stuff. It really came also out of my study, okay, I've been successful now. We've created some wealth. We've got some assets. What do I do with that? Like, how do I steward that? I've got 3 boys. How do I involve them in the business? Do I involve them? Do I not involve them? Money. How much money do I give them? How much do I, company shares? Do they get company? How do you set this up, not just for myself, but also for the next generation? So the question about legacy is all about, what do you leave behind? What do you want to leave behind? Now, as Christians, we believe that we should have an eternal perspective. Everything we do counts for eternity. So with that in mind, I really want to have a long-term perspective. even though I'm a quick decision maker and I'm always in the moment, but I really want to live my life with a long-term perspective. And also the wealth that we're creating and the companies and the projects, I really want to see how they have a lasting legacy. And let me just say, the Medici family is an incredible example over many years. So check this out, 600 years later, 16 million people per year go and visit Florence, Italy.
Amazing.
And what we look at is the stuff that they financed, built, and created during that time. The Renaissance art, the palazzos, the church, the big cathedral, the Santa Maria delle Fiore, the big cupola, the Medici family put it there. And so they invested strategically. And so 600 years later, we're still inspired. So I think we should at least ask the question, what do you want to leave behind? And I think it's a deeply spiritual question again, because we can leave behind good, and we can leave behind bad, and I think we all should strive towards good.
Well, Cris, thank you so much for sharing with us. I would like to go to the final question. I'm very curious. What have you learned about God in the last season of your life?
What have I learned about God? That's a very good question. What I like about the question is that with God it's a relationship. So it's not like something static. Mm-hmm. It's not like I read the Bible 20 years ago and now I know the principles, but it's a relationship. And so I would say it's continuously evolving, and one of the and perhaps one of the things that I'm really feel very fortunate about is that there's been a side of my spirituality that I had not tapped into, which really was more on the contemplation side. So I've always been very much a head person. I like to study, I like to learn. So also the Bible, I wanted to read it, learn the verses, and actually through art, looking at art, and lots of the Renaissance art is all biblical gospel scenes. Standing still in front of a piece of art, painting a picture, and looking at a gospel scene has actually brought me closer to God. I contemplate on the different mimics of the people and the faces. I contemplate on the scene, and this has been a way for me to discover God in different new ways, and I'm enjoying that.
Cris, thank you so much. I want to give you a challenge to give an encouragement for the entrepreneurs in Romania, and maybe for the ones that are thinking about business. What would be your message to them?
Well, for me, entrepreneurship really is about passion. Yesterday I said to someone, God is an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. God is an entrepreneur. Why? Because he created something out of nothing. If you read the first chapters of the Bible, there was nothing, and then God created something. Okay? Well, what do we do as entrepreneurs? We create something out of nothing. We come up with an idea, a product, a service, then we form a company, then we start hiring people, then we put some money, and then all of a sudden we create something. So it's actually a very spiritual activity to create a company. And so I would challenge everyone that's listening is really to tap into their passion to create. It's a God thing. But it's also a human thing. This is how God has made us with this passion. And let me just say, if I can be of any help here in the future to the people in Romania, to you, the Guild community, I'd love to do that. As I say, I've created a bunch of programs. I've got a community that internationally, so from people all over the world. Our website is medicilegacy.com. medicilegacy.com, and basically there's some information. You can download the book for free. Actually, wow. People can just download it. I don't have it on Amazon. I'm not selling it, but they can download it, and there's even a chance to get in touch with me. If there's a way for me, not just to inspire a little bit, but actually to really help in the process of creating a successful life and a beautiful business, I'd love to do that.
Cris, I really appreciate your experience, your heart, your passion for business, for investment.
Thank you
for
so much,
Romania. I feel that this is just the beginning of a friendship and a journey.
100%. 100%.
And we are so privileged to be able to have from your experience and from all your journey in business.
I was learning from you. Yesterday, as we had the leadership sessions, I took a whole bunch of notes just on how you're thinking and how the team is thinking. So I feel the same way.
So we are here because we want to help. We want to contribute to a movement of entrepreneurs.
And there is a movement. I can see it.
We are working on that.
No, I can see it, and I felt it. Yeah.
So we are privileged, and our invitation for you is to come back again, and I hope we can make some relations. And
I'd love to come back, and I would love to invite whoever wants to come with me to Florence. So I go with business guys on a regular basis. I fly down to Italy, I fly down to Tuscany, and take them with me through the city of Florence. We go on the footsteps of Cosimo, and we learn and develop. And so vice versa. I'd love to invite you. I also do a conference in Mallorca once a year. So I'd love to be in touch and see how we can support each other.
Thank you so much, Cris. May God bless you and be with you.
Thank you so much, Rob.